The story begins with a party of adventurers nearing their destination. One of them comments on how far they have traveled, but Sarah stops the group, adopting a formal tone. He tells Kuga that they have one final challenge ahead, but insists that this is where they must part ways. Kuga is stunned, realizing he is suddenly being separated from the party. He demands to know if they are truly serious, reminding them of their shared history as students. Sarah bluntly explains the reasoning. Kuga is a jack of all trades, master of none. He asserts that this separation is the best outcome for the group. Kuga is left speechless as Sarah delivers the final verdict. Kuga must enter the hidden room alone. Sarah adds that this is a farewell gift. Makari speaks up, arguing that this course of action is too extreme, but Sarah shuts her down, insisting it must be done even if force is required. Kuga understands Mikari's concern, but ultimately accepts the situation. He climbs the stairs toward the ominous door, telling Sarah he will gladly accept this gift. He steps into the room and finds a woman waiting for him. She mocks him, asking if he really intends to face her by himself. The narrative explains that 50 years ago, dungeons suddenly appeared on Earth, confirming the existence of magic and monsters. Along with them came new professions and a spell called Relive, which allows a user to resurrect automatically once. This safety net caused the popularity of dungeon exploration and streaming to explode. However, this specific chamber is known as the Hidden Room of No Return. Historically, anyone who enters never returns. They are forced to use their one resurrection magic here, leaving them permanently unable to enter another dungeon. The monster responsible for this reputation stands before Kuga now. She questions why he's alone, and when he admits he was banished, she laughs, but notes that he seems strangely calm about his fate. Kuga admits he felt this would happen eventually, and that it is likely for the best. The woman smiles, pleased that his arrival has at least cured her boredom. Suddenly, she erupts with energy, launching a barrage of small spikes at him. Kuga draws his sword and effortlessly dodges the projectiles. Before he can recover, she uses teleportation to appear instantly behind him, noting his rough swordplay. Kuga reacts instinctively, turning to block her attack just in time. Realizing she is using high-level vampire specialist skills, Kuga knows he cannot remain defensive. He shifts to the offensive, slashing his sword at her, though she swiftly dodges and blocks his strikes. After a brief exchange, she finds an opening and pierces his shoulder with a sharp object. Blood spills from the wound, but Kuga immediately places his hand over it and casts healing magic, restoring the injury completely. The vampire is shocked, scoffing that he really is a jack of all trades. Kuga is annoyed by the label. In reality, his job class is hero. This title allows him to perform swordsmanship, defensive magic, offensive magic, and healing all at a high level. However, because of the dungeon barrier effect, parties are limited to 4 members. Efficiency requires that teams prioritize specialists over generalists. Kuga recalls his former party, Sarah the Sword Saint, Urea the Saintess, and Makari the Support Caster. In such a specialized lineup, Kuga was the odd one out. Yet, as he clashes with the vampire, he feels something unexpected, a sense of freedom. For the first time, he does not have to worry about keeping teammates alive. His train of thought is interrupted when the vampire speaks up, looking curious. She points upward and asks what the strange floating object is. Kuga glances up and explains that it is simply a streaming drone. The vampire studies the floating device, confused by the idea of streaming and suspecting it might be a betrayal. Kuga denies this, but as she keeps glaring at the machine, he realizes how ridiculous the situation is. He's about to explain live streaming to a dungeon monster. He tells her that the video is being broadcast live to people all over the world, and that viewers can watch and leave comments in real time. To his surprise, the vampire completely stops attacking and listens with real interest. When she understands that their fight is being seen by a global audience, she becomes thrilled. Shaking with excitement, she bows and thanks him, saying he is the first person who has ever explained something to her so kindly. Kuga is bewildered by her polite gratitude. Eager to know more, she asks what the comments are currently saying. Kuga opens the chat and reads the first one he sees. The viewers think the vampire is cute. She blushes deeply, peeking at the screen to find that almost all the comments focus on her appearance. Flustered and red-faced, she shouts that the humans are insolent. Kuga counters that the audience is simply being honest. This remark catches her off guard, and she suddenly asks if she can say something strange. Before Kuga can process the shift in tone, she asks him to teach her how to stream. Kuga shouts in confusion, but she doubles down, insisting that she has become interested in the profession and wants him to mentor her. Kuga hesitates and points out the obvious problem. As the dungeon boss, she can't possibly leave this room. She brushes off his concern, explaining that she usually spends her time napping and only teleports here when an intruder sets off the alarm. She is free to leave whenever she pleases. With that obstacle removed, she clings to Kuga, intensifying her request from simply learning to actually streaming together. She leans in close, sniffing him and murmuring that his blood smells delicious, but quickly catches herself. Pulling back, she covers the slip-up by claiming he just seems like the perfect partner. Kuga smiles, marveling at how the situation shifted from a death match to a collaboration proposal. Internally, he reflects on his lost purpose. Back when he and Sarah were students, they explored dungeons for fun. However, as they grew famous, Kuga became nothing more than a silent protector, unable to be entertaining or step into the spotlight. That deep despair was the true reason he accepted Sarah's cruel farewell gift without fighting back. He simply didn't care if his life ended there. Yet, meeting this strange vampire has sparked something new. Though he questions his own sanity, Kuga finally looks at her and agrees to the partnership. What started as a typical banishment story has suddenly transformed into the birth of a never-before-seen streaming duo. He asks if she actually has a specific plan in mind. First, the vampire introduces herself properly as Alicia, admitting she does not know who named her. She has simply known her identity since the moment she became aware of her existence. He introduces himself in return. Alicia smiles, telling him she thinks it is a cool name. Kuga steers the conversation back to the content. Alicia explains that she has had too much spare time lately and wants to aim for something ambitious. She wants to stand on top of everyone. When Kuga notes she is already powerful, she clarifies her true goal. She wants to evolve into the legendary final boss. To do that, the first step is becoming an SS rank boss. She hands Kuga a list of the ranked parties she needs to defeat. Kuga is surprised by her research, but questions if fighting explorers is truly necessary. Alicia hesitates, apologizing as she remembers that her partner is also an explorer and likely wouldn't want to fight his own kind. Kuga waves off her concern, explaining that he does not mind at all. He reveals a key fact about their world. There are no rules forbidding explorers from fighting each other. Since all adventurers are required to have relive magic cast on them before entering a dungeon, guaranteeing a safe resurrection outside if they die, they are granted the freedom to fight. Some groups, like the duelists, even make PvP their main content. Relieved, Alicia focuses on the logistics. She notes that to become an S-rank boss, she must defeat an S-rank party, of which she's informed by Kuga that there are only 4. He admits he was in an A-rank party, so Alicia concludes that there are people stronger than him. Kuga agrees and asks whether Alicia has a rank, knowing she isn't listed among the S-rank bosses. When she replies that she doesn't, he notes that she isn't on any official rankings, likely because she is a hidden boss. Alicia decides that starting from 0 sounds more fun anyway. She enthusiastically declares the channel's purpose, a documentary titled My Journey as a Reckless Boss on the Path to Becoming the Final Boss. Her ultimate goal is to instill fear in humans to stop their tasteless dungeon streaming. Kuga notes the irony of using streaming to end streaming, wondering what his specific role in this grand plan will be. A few hours later, Alicia goes live. The stream is immediately flooded with viewers, marking a historic moment as news of a banished hero and a dungeon monster working together spreads like wildfire. Alicia turns to the camera and cheerfully announces their first activity: explorer hunting. The comment section instantly erupts in disbelief. As they move through the dungeon, Alicia points out a group of intruders. Kuga confirms their presence. Unaware they are being watched, the team of former high school clubmates chats casually. One girl flirts with a boy named Kenzu, confessing she is happy to be in the same party as him. Kenzu gets flustered, but their romantic moment is cut short brutally. Unexpectedly, dark energy strikes the group. Black, sharp tentacles summoned by Alicia pierce them, leaving the entire party helpless. Kenzu, vision blurring, wonders in despair why it has to end like this. Desperate, he extends his hand toward the girl, Akina, wishing to reach her one last time. She reaches back, calling his name, but just before their hands touch, Alicia intervenes and finishes Akina off. Kenzu is stunned, unable to process the slaughter. Alicia cheerfully thanks them for their hard work. Devastated and weeping, the boy shouts, demanding to know who she is. Alicia simply replies that they are hunting humans. When Kenzu screams in confusion, she sneers at him, mocking his anger. She points out the hypocrisy, noting that humans hunt monsters for money and fame all the time, so he should be grateful that monsters are risking their lives for human hobbies. Enraged, Kenzu curses her and attempts to retaliate, but Alicia makes him vanish instantly with a snap of her fingers, sarcastically apologizing for interrupting him. Watching from the back, Kuga realizes she went completely overboard. A B-class party was just destroyed by a boss who shouldn't even be on this floor. Alicia asks if the stream is getting decent viewership. Kuga confirms it is. Smirking, she asks if the humans are horrified yet. At first, the comments are precisely what she wanted. Viewers are disgusted, calling her a monster. Alicia is satisfied, believing she has taught them a lesson. However, the tide turns unexpectedly. New comments flood in, admitting a strange rush from the violence. Others justify the killing, revealing that this specific party was known for cruel experiments, like slicing up slimes just to test regeneration speeds. Alicia panics, trying to tell the chat to calm down and be scared, not excited. The viewers ignore her, claiming they have awakened to something new. Alicia turns to Kuga, almost crying, and asks if humans are actually monsters too. Kuga admits that might be true. As the vampire denies being worse than a monster, Kuga realizes that with this unpredictable audience, her plan to instill fear is going completely off track. As they continue their journey, Alicia extends her hand and tells Kuga to take it. He is confused and hesitates, causing her to tease him for being shy. Kuga blushes, admitting he is a little embarrassed. Laughing at his timid reaction, she grabs his hand firmly and pulls him along. Moments later, they arrive at a bustling settlement. Alicia asks what he thinks, revealing that this is a monster town, a place normally restricted to monsters only. The stream chat immediately lights up with excitement, confirming that monster towns actually exist and commenting on the cute vibes and baby monsters wandering around. Alicia notes that Kuga is likely the first human to ever set foot here. He is anxious, asking if she is absolutely sure this is safe. He points out that even if he isn't officially banned, he is still a human in a city of monsters. Alicia dismisses his worries, claiming it will be fine. When trying to justify his presence, she pauses to think about their relationship. Deciding not to overcomplicate it, she declares that for now, he is her special other. Kuga awkwardly accepts the title, and just like that, he becomes Alicia's designated partner. As they walk down the road, Kuga asks if streaming here is truly allowed. Alicia shrugs, reasoning that since no one has stopped them yet, it is probably fine. The viewers are amazed, realizing this is a historic broadcast. Kuga reflects on Alicia's conflicting goals. She wants to become the final boss to stop humans from dungeon streaming, yet by showing that monsters have their own peaceful society, she might inadvertently humanize them to the audience. He doubts she thought that far ahead. The crowd of monsters eyes Kuga with caution. Suddenly, a large monster with a bull's face steps forward, calling out, "Vampire-chan!" Kuga and the chat panic, fearing a confrontation. However, Alicia greets the Minotaur casually. She introduces Kuga to her friend, Mino. Despite the intimidating appearance, Mino bows politely. Kuga is taken aback by the courteous greeting. Mino, whose voice is surprisingly cute despite her size, expresses concern about bringing a human into town. She admits it is just common sense to be wary, but praises Kuga for having the guts to barge in. The chat instantly falls in love with the cute cowgirl. Kuga internally questions his decision to come here, but realizes he had no choice. First, returning to human society is too risky after Alicia slaughtered that B-rank party. Second, since they have no way to communicate if they separate, he has to stick close to her. Alicia notices the comments mentioning Kamizumi and asks Kuga about it. He explains it was the name of his former party. Turning back to Mino, Alicia firmly states that even though Kuga is human, he is her special other, and she won't let anyone lay a hand on him. Mino asks what special other even means, while the chat jokes that Mino is the only one with a brain in this group. Later, they stop at a fruit cart. Alicia asks what he likes, and Kuga chooses apples. She picks up a green one and asks the shopkeeper for the price. The monster replies, 500 yen. Kuga shouts in shock. Alicia asks if something is wrong, but he denies it, thinking he must have misheard. However, when she hands over a 1,000 yen note and receives a coin in change, Kuga raises his voice again. He asks if she is sure this is okay, unable to believe that monsters use the same currency as humans. Alicia tilts her head, wondering why he finds that so surprising. Kuga acknowledges the situation, but internally he ponders the strange aspects of the dungeon economy. He wonders if dungeons in other nations also use their respective local currencies. Currently, dungeons, or dengen, have been confirmed in 9 countries worldwide, including Japan. The entrance to Japan's dungeon is located in Ariake, Tokyo. Due to geography, with China and Thailand having their own dungeons, the Japanese dungeon is somewhat isolated, meaning the vast majority of explorers here are locals. Curious, Kuga asks how monsters acquire money in the first place. Alicia explains that they receive a fixed amount daily. He remarks that it sounds exactly like a basic income, but when Alicia looks confused by the term, he drops the subject. Since they use the same currency, he offers to pay for the apples, but Alicia refuses, chiding him for being modest and insisting on treating him. Later, they arrive at her home. Alicia welcomes him in, explaining that this is just a temporary residence until she can construct her actual castle. Kuga had considered staying at an inn, but she casually invited him inside. Dinner is served, though it is incredibly sparse. Alicia eats a single green apple, while Kuga settles for a protein bar from his supplies. When it is time to sleep, Alicia suddenly shouts in panic. She realizes she overlooked a critical detail. There is only one bed. She spirals into worry, thinking that sharing a cramped bed with a human is unheard of, ignoring the fact that they have already done several unheard of things that day. She feels obligated as a host to offer the bed, but before she can spiral further, Kuga interrupts. He pulls out his own sleeping bag and sets it up on the floor, settling in for the night while she watches him in silence. Deep at night, Kuga jolts awake to find Alicia beside him, sniffing his hand. Caught in the act, she apologizes, muttering that the anesthetic she used must not have worked. Kuga shouts, demanding to know what she is doing. She smiles sheepishly, admitting she just wanted to borrow a tiny bit of blood because she couldn't forget the taste from earlier. Kuga wonders if her entire motivation for teaming up with him was just to access his blood, but he sighs and offers a compromise. He tells her that if she wants blood, she just has to ask, as long as she doesn't drain him dry. Delighted, Alicia hugs him and thanks him profusely. She produces a syringe, extracts a small amount of blood, and licks a drop from her finger with bliss. Kuga asks why she uses a syringe instead of biting directly like a typical vampire. Alicia, looking completely entranced by the taste, explains that biting is an act reserved for underlings. Since Kuga is her special other, biting him would be problematic. Kuga falls silent, noting the strange distinction. Later, their streaming adventure continues as they hunt down more intruders. Alicia tracks the score. The 18 people she defeated in the past, plus the 4 from yesterday and the 4 they just caught, the total stands at 26. To meet the requirement of 30 kills for the SS rank promotion, she only needs 4 more. The stream comments cheer her on, tracking the countdown. Kuga notices the audience is getting used to the explorer hunting content, with hate comments now mixing with genuine support. Just as they prepare to search for the final targets, a voice calls out from behind them. Kuga turns to see a full team standing there. The stream comments immediately recognize them as the Monster Slayers, an A-rank party affiliated with the famous S-rank group, the Evil Slayers. The leader introduces the team, signaling a dangerous new challenge. The leader of the group speaks up, asking if the two of them are trying to stir up a quiet fuss. He notes that Kuga and Alicia have garnered a lot of attention. She is delighted by the fame, but the stream comments frantically warn her that this group, the Monster Slayers, is extremely dangerous. Before the warning can fully sink in, the leader gives a creepy smile and leaps forward to attack. Alicia and Kuga jump back to dodge. The leader notes their reflexes, while Alicia observes that their energy levels confirm their status as an A-rank party. She realizes this is a stroke of luck. By defeating them, she can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, clearing both the hit count and the A-rank party defeat requirement in one go. The leader attacks Alicia from above with his sword, but she blocks it without flinching. The viewers analyze the fight, impressed that the A-rankers can keep up with a vampire. They specifically point out the leader, Shidahara, a fencer who specializes in high-speed combat with a short sword. A team member shouts and launches a fireball at Alicia, but she dodges gracefully and fires a counterattack. The party blocks her strike with a shield from behind. Shidahara lunges at Alicia again, declaring she is wide open. He unleashes a skill called Quick Slash. The attack is about to land when Kuga steps in and blocks it. Alicia claims she can handle him alone, but is glad Kuga finally stepped in. They decide that he will take on the leader, while she handles the 3 support members in the back. Shidahara mocks Kuga, asking if Mr. Hero really thinks he stands a chance in close combat. As a fencer, Shidahara specializes in speed and is theoretically much more powerful than a jack-of-all-trades. He activates a magic skill called Excellence, bursting with energy and dashing forward in a nanosecond. Kuga barely blocks the strike. Shidahara taunts him, finding it pathetic that a savior would side with monsters. He sneers that it is no wonder Kuga's companions abandoned him, calling him a mediocre fool. The insults cut deep. Kuga internally admits that Shidahara is probably right. Without him, his old party could have been stronger. However, that party was all he had. Gripping his sword tighter, Kuga snaps out of his self-pity and unleashes a sudden, powerful slash, eliminating Shidahara. The other 3 members scream in horror, but they are immediately ensnared by Alicia's dark tentacles. The entire enemy team is wiped out, their bodies vanishing as the relive magic activates to teleport them to the revival point. The stream chat goes silent for a moment before erupting in shock at the duo's strength. Alicia celebrates Kuga's victory. He acknowledges the win but reflects on the weight of his actions. Even though they will revive, he has technically eliminated humans and permanently ended their careers as dungeon explorers. Alicia asks how it feels. Kuga replies that surprisingly, it felt no different from cutting down a monster. Alicia smiles, taking this as a good sign. Suddenly, a notification appears for Kuga. His job stone is flickering, indicating that a new job tree has unlocked. Alicia ignores the technicalities and excitedly shows him the updated quest list. They have successfully hunted over 30 intruders and defeated an A-rank party. The comments cheer them on. Kuga realizes they haven't explained the situation to the viewers yet, but his thought is interrupted by a blur of motion. A girl appears from behind, dashing past Kuga and slamming Alicia into a massive stone with tremendous force. Kuga freezes as he recognizes the attacker. It is Yuria, the saintess from his former party. The narrative briefly recaps the world's history. 50 years ago, dungeons appeared, bringing monsters and magic. Kuga, a hero treated as a jack-of-all-trades, was banished by his party and abandoned in a boss chamber. There, he reluctantly teamed up with the vampire Alicia to start an unusual dungeon streaming series. Back in the present, Alicia reels from the impact of the ambush, complaining about the sudden attack and telling the intruder to chill out. Yuria screams back, accusing the vampire of being a thieving cat who ruined their hero. Alicia is confused, asking if the girl is from that party called Zimi. Yuria angrily corrects her. It is Kumazumi, scolding the monster for omitting the most important part. Alicia admits she doesn't fully understand the situation, but identifies the saintess as one of the people who kicked Kuga out. Yuria confirms this bluntly. The vampire retorts by asking what her problem is, considering she was the one who abandoned him in the first place. Watching the confrontation, Kuga recalls the day of his banishment. Back then, Yuria never said a word, keeping her mouth shut and making it impossible to know what she was thinking. Now, however, she seems unable to contain her emotions. She abruptly declares that she is not good at talking and decides to settle this with force, launching another attack. The stream comment section goes wild, hyping the matchup as the muscle-brained saintess versus the vampire, also dubbing it the Ms. Gorilla Showdown. Alicia is annoyed by the nickname, but the chat explains that Yuria is the real deal. Despite being a saintess who can spam high-level light magic, she prefers intense hand-to-hand combat, earning her the savage reputation. Her beauty combined with her brutal fighting style made her the most popular member of the old team. Yuria activates Holy Night. As the energy bursts forward, the vampire steps back to deploy a shield. Alicia counters with dark tentacles, but the saintess dodges and slams the ground, causing the earth to rumble violently. Kuga realizes the situation is far more intense than he anticipated. To his surprise, even Yuria is starting to lose ground against the vampire. Alicia unleashes a barrage of dark, sharp spikes. Yuria attempts to dodge, but she cannot evade them all. Several projectiles graze her, leaving cuts on her body. Alicia smiles at the damage, but Kuga suddenly steps in. He rushes toward the saintess and casts healing magic on her injuries. Alicia looks uncomfortable at his intervention, while Yuria, confused by his kindness, calls out his name. Kuga cuts her off, firmly telling her to stop. Yuria shouts that she is not done yet. Kuga knows neither of them has shown even half their true strength, but he refuses to let the fight continue. He tells her that ever since he was kicked out of Kumazami, it has been one chaotic event after another. He may have ended up with a vampire, but he makes his stance clear. If she messes with Alicia, he will not let it slide. Both women go silent. Yuria stands there trembling, her eyes filling with tears. Suddenly, she screams at the top of her lungs that Sarah is an absolute idiot. With that outburst, she turns and runs away, leaving everyone stunned. The stream comments are baffled, asking why she was crying. Kuga is equally shocked, wondering if he is somehow the bad guy in this scenario, and confused as to why she screamed Sarah's name instead of his. Behind him, Alicia simply thanks him for stepping in. Alicia suggests that they should acquire some minions. Kuga agrees absently, his mind still lingering on the previous encounter with Yuria. He is still processing why she came alone and whether she made it back safely. Although he received a curt yes to his text message, he tries to shake off the worry to focus on the task at hand. They return to reviewing Alicia's plan to become an SS rank boss. One of the conditions is the acquisition of underlings. Kuga points to the list, asking if the requirement to defeat an S rank boss is also part of the process, which Alicia confirms. Kuga assumes she plans to turn the Minotaur he met earlier into a minion, but Alicia protests immediately, declaring that Mino is her friend and she would never force her into obedience. Kuga realizes this means they must target someone else. Originally, there was only one S-rank boss, but the number eventually grew to 8. Now, a replacement system ensures there are always 8 S-rank bosses at any given time. Defeating one is a standard requirement for promotion to S-rank, territory that is entirely new for Kuga, who stayed at A rank. Kuga asks how Alicia would get minions to follow her. She explains that it usually depends on free will, but there is a shortcut: sucking their blood directly. Kuga assumes she avoids this due to morals, but she corrects him. She explains that she simply dislikes the taste of random monster blood. Kuga is shocked to hear this, as he recalls how she absorbed blood through her tentacles, and how she seemed to have a particular fondness for his O-type blood, but he keeps that thought to himself. Instead, he asks who she plans to target next. She laughs, revealing that she has already chosen her victim. The scene shifts to the double-headed dungeon. It expands in two directions. The upper layer reaches the sky, and the lower layer stretches underground, with difficulty mirrored between them. Every 10th floor is a monster-free safe zone often used for camping. Alicia's original room is on the 43rd underground floor, while S-rank bosses typically reside on the 45th and 49th floors. Currently, the duo is walking through the 32nd underground floor, a rocky terrain that the stream viewers immediately identify as kobold territory. Alicia confirms this, announcing that today's mission is to raid a kobold colony and force the survivors to become her minions. As they move forward, Alicia points out a human woman standing in the distance. Kuga asks if she intends to hurt her, but Alicia replies that she generally does not hunt humans who show no hostility. Kuga senses something is off. The woman is completely alone without a streaming drone, which is highly dangerous and rare for these depths. She appears deeply distracted. Suddenly, the stranger whispers a command to disable her auto-revive. The magical energy shifts around her. Alicia asks what is happening, but Kuga immediately realizes the gravity of the situation. He panics, understanding that the girl is attempting suicide by deliberately removing the safety net that guarantees resurrection. The girl is a reviver. Typically, explorers pay insurance companies to have a reviver cast the relive spell on them before entering a dungeon. The only person capable of disabling this spell inside the dungeon is a reviver themselves. Since this job class is rare and usually office-based, seeing one this deep is almost unheard of. Armed with this knowledge, Alicia decides that a girl with such a valuable job class must become her minion. Kuga tries to stop her, but the vampire is already moving. She calls out to the girl, telling her not to hesitate. Startled, the reviver tries to run, but Alicia instantly wraps dark tentacles around her to halt the escape. Alicia remarks that it was a close call, admitting her predatory instincts kicked in when the girl ran. Kuga compares Alicia to a wild bear and realizes the situation is too delicate for the public. He apologizes to the viewers and abruptly cuts the stream, leaving the chat confused. Meanwhile, the entangled girl begs them not to stop her, pleading for them to eliminate her quickly. Alicia sighs, asking why she wants to die so badly, but then abruptly changes the subject. She asks the girl a strange question, whether she likes dogs. Confused by the shift, the reviver stammers but admits she actually likes dogs quite a bit. Hearing this, Alicia releases her from the tentacles. She grabs the girl's hand and cheerfully announces that since she likes dogs, they are going to a dog paradise. The stream resumes, and the new companion introduces herself as Kushina. Alicia greets her warmly but asks if she knows who they are. The girl apologizes, admitting she doesn't know much about them, and asks if they are perhaps famous streamers. Alicia modestly replies that she isn't sure, but the comment section immediately corrects her. Viewers flood the chat, insisting that in terms of popularity, they are the hottest topic right now. The praise makes the vampire smile with delight. Changing the subject, Alicia announces that it is time to choose a dog paradise. Kushina is confused by the phrasing, but the boss tells her just to wait and see. They visit several locations in search of the perfect spot. Alicia rejects the first few options, calling them iffy or not quite right. Finally, upon reaching the fourth location, Alicia nods in approval. She asks Kuga for his opinion on the vibe. He agrees that the atmosphere is calming, so Alicia decides this is the one. Kushina, observing the surroundings, points out the guards and realizes they are standing in front of a kobold colony. It dawns on her that this is what the vampire meant by dog paradise. Alicia laughs, confirming that the guest can pet and cuddle the monsters here to her heart's content. One of the guards salutes them. The kobold appearances change depending on the colony type. Since Alicia selected a Japanese-style colony, the monsters here look exactly like Shiba Inus, complete with cute, fluffy cheeks. Even Kushina, who was desperate enough to disable her revive spell moments ago, cannot resist the charm. She screams about how cute they are and rushes forward to pet one. The kobold moves toward her as if to accept the affection, but Kuga senses the danger. He steps in between them just in time, and the beast bites his hand instead of nuzzling Kushina. Alicia praises him for the save, warning the girl that while they are cute, kobolds are still vicious monsters. Kushina apologizes profusely for the accident. Alicia waves it off and shares a tip. A kobold's weak spot is its throat. If stroked there, they calm down instantly. To demonstrate, she rubs the aggressive kobold's throat, turning the monster into a docile, baby-like creature. Satisfied, the vampire heads inside. Kuga prepares to follow, but Kushina hesitates, fixated on the blood dripping from his hand. She insists on helping. Placing her hand over the wound, she casts healing magic, closing the injury perfectly. Kuga thanks her, noting internally that her magic feels significantly warmer than his own. Kushina smiles, revealing that this is actually her first time using healing, as she usually relies entirely on auto-revival spells in her line of work. After a brief, awkward silence, Kushina asks if Alicia will be okay going ahead alone. Kuga assures her she will be fine. Right on cue, the boss shouts from inside, complaining that they are too slow. When they catch up, they find that Alicia has already tamed all the kobolds in the area and is busy petting them. The stream comments marvel at her speed, joking that the raid has unexpectedly turned into a wholesome animal therapy session. As they walk deeper into the colony, Kuga decides to ask what is weighing on his mind. He apologizes for prying, but asks Kushina why she tried to disable her revival spell. He points out that revivers are a rare class, usually guaranteed a secure, wealthy future. Kushina cuts him off, stating that the security is precisely the reason why. Kuga falls silent as Kushina explains her reasoning. She admits she chose the safe route by joining the Relive Insurance. The job offered stability, great bonuses, and zero pressure. It was the reliable choice. However, the reality was a monotonous cycle of casting revivals day after day. She confesses that living entirely for the sake of others became exhausting. Suddenly, she raises her voice to clarify a misunderstanding. She insists she wasn't actually planning to harm herself. She claims she was just in a weird mood and craving a thrill, desperate for some kind of excitement to break the boredom. Kuga listens, understanding her plight. He reflects on the irony of their world. Thanks to the automatic resurrection magic, the risk of death dropped, turning dungeon exploration into mass entertainment. However, the job of the reviver, the cornerstone of this safety, has become its own kind of curse. Alicia interrupts the serious moment with a blunt proposal. If Kushina is bored, she should become her minion. Kushina is confused by the term. Kuga realizes she still hasn't grasped the situation and explains that Alicia is actually a monster. The girl freaks out, shouting in disbelief. She admits she noticed the wings, but didn't connect the dots. She then looks at Kuga, asking what he is. When he replies that he is human, her confusion deepens. Despite the revelation, Kushina immediately rejects the offer. She shouts that she cannot become a monster's minion, citing the most grounded reason possible: her mother would kill her. Alicia looks visibly disappointed by the rejection. Kuga privately thinks that Kushina would probably get in more trouble with her mother for trying to die than for becoming a minion, but he wisely decides to keep that thought to himself. Kushina shakes her head, remarking that she still can't believe there are people who do such reckless things. Kuga nods, assuming she means the vampire, but Kushina immediately corrects him, shouting that she is talking about him. When he flinches at the accusation, she smiles, admitting that perhaps she should try breaking out of her shell a little too. Seeing an opening, Alicia asks once more if she wants to become a minion. The girl instantly refuses, repeating that her mother would kill her. In the end, Alicia manages to make the kobolds her minions but fails to recruit the human. After clearing out the colony on the 32nd underground floor, the duo heads back to the monster town. Due to the dungeon's structure, they have to enter from the same spot every time, forcing them to walk the long way back. At a stall, Alicia picks up some apples. Kuga steps in and offers to pay. When she waves him off, he explains that thanks to their streams, he has been earning a decent amount from incentives, basically money based on viewer counts. He insists on covering the cost since he wouldn't have the audience without her. Alicia is stunned to learn that streaming actually generates income. Kuga suddenly realizes a potential problem. Incentives are paid in digital currency, specifically MayPay. He asks how her money works. She demonstrates by reaching into her pocket, explaining that 5 1,000 yen bills magically appear there every day. Kuga calculates her basic income at 5,000 yen daily. Realizing that won't be enough for big expenses, and assuming monsters can't process digital payments, Kuga worries they will need to visit a human town soon. Just then, the monster shopkeeper interrupts. Kuga apologizes, promising cash, but the shopkeeper corrects him. He points to a sign indicating that MayPay is perfectly acceptable. Both adventurers are left in shock by the town's technological convenience. Alicia watches in awe as he pays digitally, remarking that the technology is practically magic. She mutters about needing to check her survival manual later to understand these modern conveniences, leaving Kuga amused that such a manual even exists. Later, they sit down to eat, and the vampire is shocked by the mountain of food in front of her partner. He explains that compared to her, his body burns through energy much faster, specifically requiring more iron to sustain his abilities. Alicia doesn't quite understand the human biology, but she lets him eat in peace. After finishing the meal, he asks what she was talking to the kobolds about earlier. Alicia reveals a ring, explaining that she gave it to them so they can call her if they need help. Kuga points out that this arrangement effectively means the monsters can summon her anytime. He wonders aloud if Alicia is the one who actually became their minion. She snaps defensively, admitting that while fluffiness is supreme, that isn't the only reason. To prove her point, she activates a magic circle on the floor. Instantly, a huge kobold appears. Alicia apologizes to the beast, explaining she was just testing the summon. Kuga notes that while the monster can't talk, it seems to understand her perfectly. Alicia introduces the creature as the colony boss. When she struggles to pronounce his actual name, she simply dubs him Cobalt. Kuga realizes she definitely made that up on the spot. Satisfied, Alicia dismisses Cobalt, sending him back. Kuga admits that summoning a boss monster is undeniably useful. Alicia cautions that there is a cooldown period, so she can't spam the ability. She smiles mysteriously, adding that the kobolds have another vital role to play, a secret that Kuga won't discover until later. Back at Alicia's temporary home, the vampire breaks the silence with a question. She tells Kuga that she has been curious about other streamers lately and asks if they can watch some. Kuga agrees and turns on the screen. Alicia excitedly gathers around as he opens the broadcast channel for Kumazami. The vampire immediately recognizes the party, asking if these are the specific people who kicked him out. Kuga confirms it is them. This is the first time he has watched his former teammates since his banishment. He stares at the screen, immediately noticing a major change. The party has a new member. Alicia asks again if these are really his former teammates, observing that the group looks completely lifeless. Kuga feels a sense of doubt creeping in, realizing her observation is spot on. On screen, the Kumazami team is locked in battle with twin skeletons, powerful A-rank undead monsters. Sarah, the swordsman, clenches his teeth, barely dodging an attack from the rear. Yuria shouts to the new member, Sion, declaring that she will take the front line as usual. However, Sion, a priest, shuts her down immediately. He insists that she stick to the standard strategy, reminding her that the most fundamental rule of any party is to protect the specialized healer, which is him. While they argue over positioning, Sarah moves forward carelessly and gets struck by the enemy. Sion reacts instantly, casting a healing spell from a distance to restore the swordsman's health in seconds. The stream viewers praise Sion's incredible restoration speed, noting that he is a disciple of the legendary S-rank explorer Leo John. The stream comments begin to complain that the fight is dragging on. Yuria tries to take charge, powering up her Holy Knight ability to finish the job, but Sion interrupts her. He beats back the skeletons himself, dismissively waving off her help. Makari, the enchanter, tries to diffuse the tension, telling everyone to stay calm. Sion notes that his defensive enchantments are wearing off and demands a refresh. Makari starts to reapply the buff to Sarah on the front lines, but the priest snaps at her. He calls it a dumb idea and insists on sticking to the strategy. The healer must be protected above all else. The chat praises Sion for being so composed, mocking the rest of the party for running on vibes and struggling without a proper strategy. Sion plays the nice guy for the camera, asking viewers not to belittle his party members and promising they will grow together. However, sharp-eyed viewers immediately call out his hypocrisy, pointing out that he just insulted his own teammates' plan seconds ago. Watching the chaotic performance, Alicia observes that Yuria seemed way stronger when she fought her earlier. Kuga agrees. Wanting to cheer them up, the vampire asks if they can leave comments on the stream. Kuga, momentarily forgetting a crucial detail, agrees and explains how she can send a message. Alicia excitedly opens the box. Kuga watches her type a brief message of encouragement. It is only when she hits send that he realizes his mistake. The sender's name is displayed publicly. The comment appears on the live stream, clearly labeled from Kuga. On screen, his former teammates freeze in shock as they recognize the name of the man they banished.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.